Okay, so let's dig into this. We're doing a deep dive today on this, well, this single moment. A press junket interaction that just exploded online. It involved the actor Ayo Edebiri, who's just brilliant. And, it wasn't just some awkward celebrity clip. It really almost instantly became this kind of mirror, reflecting Hollywood's, let's say, complicated, often really uncomfortable relationship with activism, with social issues. Yeah, we've looked at a whole range of sources on this. They break down the actual incident, what happened, then the reaction online, which was, wow, intense, and maybe most importantly, what it all means. The deeper things about race, visibility, and honestly, the kind of impossible expectations we put on celebrities today. So our mission really is to try and figure out why this one interaction, seemingly small, right? Why it exposed such huge fault lines in media and culture.
It's a fascinating case study, actually. It really is. Because it perfectly shows critical thinking, like in real time. This wasn't just a clip. It was more like a collision. You had the timing, the platform she has, the specific themes. It all just collided, created this friction. So yeah, we'll connect what Edebiri herself later called a very human moment to these bigger things, like hashtag fatigue, maybe, and the power dynamics in journalism. Big stuff.
Okay, let's start with the basics then. The anatomy of the moment itself, the known story, because the context here is just crucial. So the setting. Venice Film Festival, high profile. It's the press junket for the film After the Hunt. And we have to mention the film's themes because they're key. It deals with really tough subjects, sexual assault, secrets, especially within powerful institutions.
Right. That backdrop is definitely important.
Yeah.
Sets the stage.
So the main event. An Italian journalist, Federica Polidoro, asks a question, but she directs it specifically to Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield, the film's, megastars.
All right, not to everyone on the panel.
Exactly. And the question was, I'm quoting directly here, what have we lost and what do we expect in Hollywood after hashtag #MeToo and Black Lives Matter are done?
Wow. Okay, that phrase, are done. I mean, that's the immediate tripwire, isn't it?
Absolutely. But even before you get to what she asked, it's who she asked. Or rather, who she didn't ask. That's the first big thing people noticed.
Yeah, the exclusion. Edebiri, also a major star in the film, the only person of color right there on the stage. And she just noticeably left out of that specific question.
Yeah.
About race and gender movements.
Yeah.
It was, glaring.
It basically made her invisible in that moment, right when the topic turned to things directly impacting her communities.
Precisely.
And Edebiri, she's got this incredible presence. We've seen it in The Bear and elsewhere. She didn't just sit there. She interjected. It was very composed, very measured. She said something like, the question wasn't for me, acknowledging the journalist's framing.
Right.
But then she immediately, strongly asserted that those movements, hashtag #MeToo and BLM, they are not done at all. Just a clean, sharp correction.
It was surgical, wasn't it? A refusal to be sidelined. And that composure, like you said, that's so important. She didn't need to launch into a lecture, She just had to inject reality back into the situation. Quite the premise.
Yeah. And later on, I think it was at the New York Film Festival, she reflected on it, called it a very human moment.
Which is such a telling phrase, right? That speaks volumes about the burden, being the one who has to step up and correct the room in public.
Definitely. We should also mention, for fairness, the journalist's reaction after the backlash.
Yes, Polidoro responded.
She defended her question on Instagram, mentioned her own multi-ethnic background, and basically accused critics of trying to shut down journalistic freedom.
So you immediately get these two narratives clashing, right? The activist view saying, hold on, this work isn't over, and the exclusion matters.
Yeah.
And then the journalistic defense saying, we need to be able to ask tough questions, even if, maybe the phrasing or the targeting was off.
Exactly. Okay, so that's the setup. Now here's where our deep dive really gets going. Why did this specific moment blow up? It could have just been another awkward junket clip. Plenty of those exist. Why did this one catch fire online?
Right. It wasn't random. The commentary we looked at really points to like 4 key factors coming together, a perfect storm.
Okay, lay them out for us.
So factor 1, it's that mix you mentioned, exclusion plus voice, which in this context reads immediately to many people as a microaggression. Analysts highlighted this straight away, excluding the only Black woman there from that question about race and gender. It's seen as a microaggression. Subtle, maybe unintentional, maybe not, but hurtful, based on identity.
And crucially, Edebiri didn't just, absorb it. She pushed back. She disrupted that narrative.
Exactly. By speaking up, she refused to be secondary in a conversation that was, frankly, partly about her experience. And the audience online saw that disruption, recognized it, and amplified it massively.
Okay, factor 2.
Factor 2 ties right into the cultural moment we're in. Timing and sensitivities. The very idea, even the suggestion implied by "are done," that major movements like hashtag #MeToo or Black Lives Matter are finished, or that we're past the main hashtag era, that's just deeply controversial right now.
Yeah, people know the work isn't finished. Not even close.
Exactly. Anyone suggesting it's over, even accidentally through phrasing, is going to spark immediate debate, immediate backlash. It's a sensitive nerve.
Makes sense. Factor 3.
Pure celebrity and platform. Let's be real, if this had happened to a less famous actor, maybe it wouldn't have gone so far. But this is Ayo Edebiri, Golden Globe winner, star of The Bear, a critically acclaimed, huge show known for its, emotional intensity.
Right, she has a massive platform now. People listen.
They do. And her platform meant that when she spoke, it carried weight. Plus, her calm, collected response just created this powerful contrast with the, frankly, clumsy question. It made her correction even more potent.
Okay, and the last one. Factor 4.
This one's kind of meta. Factor 4, the alignment with the film's themes. Remember, After the Hunt.
Yeah, uncomfortable truths, secrets, power imbalances.
Exactly. So the interview moment itself felt like life imitating art. It mirrored the very themes the film was exploring. That gave the whole incident this deeper sort of intellectual weight. It wasn't just celebrity drama. It felt like a commentary on power structures, which is what the film is about.
Wow. Okay, yeah, when you put all four together, exclusion, timing, platform, and thematic resonance, you can see why it ignited.
Precisely. It was flammable material, and the spark was that question.
So if we zoom out from the immediate viral moment, what does this whole episode tell us about, the bigger picture? Media, Hollywood, expectations.
Yeah, it really does expose some long-running, pretty uncomfortable issues. First big one, what we might call Hollywood's political expectation. There's this intense pressure, especially on actors from marginalized groups, to be more than performers. They're expected to be activists, spokespeople constantly. So when Edebiri was initially excluded, it kind of broke that assumption for a second. Like, oh wait, she's not automatically the designated person for this topic.
Yeah.
It just highlighted how conditional that inclusion often is. You're expected to speak up when asked, but you can also just be muted, ignored.
That's a really sharp point. And that connects to the second implication, right? The one about hashtag fatigue.
Absolutely. It gets right to the heart of the journalist's problematic phrase, "are done." Edebiri's correction was vital here. She made that critical distinction. Activism keeps going, even if the hashtags aren't trending as much. Even if, as she said, hashtags might not be used as much.
Yeah, the viral intensity fades, but the actual work.
The actual work continues, often quietly, systemically. And that sustained effort gets drowned out by the media's need for constant newness, constant outrage. So a hashtag fading isn't the movement ending, it's just the news cycle moving on. Her pointing that out was crucial.
Okay, and implication 3. You mentioned microaggressions in media access earlier.
Yeah, let's zero in on that, because journalistic choices, who gets asked what, they're never neutral, are they? They always reflect power dynamics, always. So by skipping over Edebiri for that question and asking two white actors instead, the journalist, consciously or not, reinforced a certain idea about who gets to be the expert, who's seen as the appropriate voice to talk about these major social issues. It implicitly assigns authority.
It dictates who gets the mic, essentially.
Exactly. Who gets to frame the narrative on social change?
Which leads us, I guess, to the fourth implication, the one about grace under fire.
Ah, yes. The double standard of grace under fire. This is a heavy one, and something many public figures, especially black artists, navigate constantly.
That's a tightrope, isn't it?
Totally. Edebiri's response, measured, thoughtful, articulate, it worked. It allowed her to make her point, to correct the record, hold the journalist accountable, without derailing the conversation into being about her reaction.
Because if she'd responded differently...
Well, analysts suggest that if she'd shown visible anger, or even just obvious frustration, which, let's be honest, would be a completely understandable reaction to that kind of microaggression, the whole narrative could have easily shifted away from the journalistic misstep and towards, the stereotype of the angry black woman or the unprofessional celebrity.
Yeah.
So her composure wasn't just professionalism. It was almost a required display of grace, a strategic necessity for her, as a black woman in that space, to speak truth without facing those disproportionate penalties, without being labeled difficult.
That phrase, required display of grace, really hits home. It wasn't just the easy or natural response. It was likely the only response that would allow her point to land without negative repercussions for her.
Exactly. Strategic, not just instinctive.
Okay. So given all that analysis, the virality, the deeper implications, what does this mean going forward
Yeah.
for press junkets, for celebrities? What are the predictions here?
Well, let's touch on the journalist's possible motivations first, because that's part of the puzzle. Commentary sort of offers two main hypotheses. Possibility one, the exclusion was maybe intentional, perhaps based on a calculation, conscious or not, that Roberts and Garfield were the bigger international names, or maybe just a perceived safer bet for such a heavy question in that setting.
Okay. Or possibility two.
Just a massive misjudgment. A complete failure to read the room, basically.
Yeah.
A failure to anticipate how that kind of exclusion would land in today's media environment, where everyone's hyper-aware of representation and social justice issues.
And it's worth noting again, right, that there wasn't a public apology afterwards, regardless of intent.
That absence was definitely noted in the commentary, yes, which kind of leaves the question of intent hanging.
Then there's that other angle, the marketing one.
Ah, yes. The idea that the controversy, and particularly Edebiri's really eloquent response, actually ended up benefiting the film.
Because the film, After the Hunt, deals with those themes. Uncomfortable truths, power dynamics.
Exactly. So some speculated that her very real, spontaneous intervention became, ironically, a powerful marketing moment for the movie because it aligns so perfectly with its themes.
That feels a bit cynical, though, doesn't it? Reducing her actual stand to just good PR.
It's a tricky line to walk, for sure. It forces you to question authenticity in these highly commercialized spaces. Like, can a genuine moment of activism also be good marketing?
Yeah. Maybe the answer is yes, but it feels uncomfortable.
It does. But I think we need to separate the actor's action, which felt principled, from the potential commercial fallout. The benefit might have happened, but that doesn't negate the stand she took.
Fair point. Okay, so looking ahead, what cultural shifts might we see because of this?
We can probably predict a few things. First, a new standard for assertiveness, maybe, especially among younger stars. You might see actors being much more willing to push back in these settings, refusing to be sidelined, refusing mischaracterizations.
And journalists might be more careful.
You'd hope so. More scrutiny on who they ask what and how they frame those questions. The potential for backlash is just so high now.
Okay, what else?
Second shift, probably increased scrutiny and almost certainly more coaching. Interviews are likely to get even more cautious, more managed.
Studios prepping their stars even more.
Definitely. Coaching them not just on talking points about the movie, but specifically on how to handle these kinds of loaded questions or moments of exclusion, how to navigate the politics with that Edebiri-style measured precision.
Like a playbook for graceful disruption.
Yeah. And the third shift is maybe more about us, the audience, how we measure movement longevity. Moments like this, they educate the public. We get better judging movements like #MeToo and BLM, not just by the loudest headlines or the latest viral outrage, but by looking for that sustained impact in places like Hollywood. And our collective media literacy, our ability to spot exclusion, to call out poor framing that just keeps growing.
So the audience gets savvier.
Hopefully. You know, what's really striking when you pull it all together, Ayo Edebiri's viral moment, it wasn't just about the question she was asked or wasn't asked or her specific answer. It really did function like that mirror you mentioned earlier. It forced a confrontation with the politics of visibility, the politics of power, especially in Hollywood, things many people felt. But this made it undeniable. Yeah. And she didn't need this huge, fiery speech to do it. She just had to refuse to be invisible. That was enough.
That's such a powerful way to frame it, refusing invisibility. It really reminds you, the listener, of this complex role celebrities have now. They're not just performers anymore. They're increasingly expected to represent, to defend positions, to argue for change, often under this intense, unforgiving spotlight.
It's a huge burden.
It really is. Which leaves us, and you, with maybe this final thought to wrestle with. What standards do you hold people to now when journalists, when public figures discuss these big social movements? Is the most important thing who gets to speak? Or is it maybe more about who gets to decide when the conversation itself is considered done? That question, who decides when the work is over? That feels like something worth thinking about long after the hashtags fade.